Can you hear me? I can't hear anything. Are you? Are you on mute? No?
On mute. Yep. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, I can hear
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. Yeah. So I was just talking there, and nobody could hear anything. So awesome. So thanks
Uh,
for letting me know. Ryan Stileson here, and I'm going to pull in S. Let's see. Wait, but now you're not on stage. Hold on one second. Let me
well,
lay
let's see.
out. There we go. Hold on. Let me just do this general. Sorry, one second, guys. For any of you guys that want to, hold on one second. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm S. Lee. I'm the founder and owner of Messages Improved, which is a platform that allows any business owner or any person for that matter to go in and create an AI agent that's attached to a telephone number that they can voice call or text. I've been doing this for about 8 years, being in the field of messaging and AI. Um, and actually started as the founder of May, textmay.com is the site where we started with a messaging app that had an AI attached to it. So it's kind of interesting, now 8 years later to have connected with Ryan a couple of months ago, where we go, okay, in this new world of generative AI, it's finally possible for AI to almost manage. And Ryan and I have been working together on a couple of deployments for small businesses for the last couple of months, and it's really interesting the calls that we get on now, how quickly businesses are adopting this, and
Yeah.
almost, it took a while to get them to be comfortable with it as an AI intern, you know, to work in the business, and now we can't. It's tough for us to keep up with the demand of the businesses that go, okay, I want the AI to do a ton more. How do we
Yeah.
do it? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
it's a really interesting place to be, and I think there's a lot of learnings that will come from this. That I would implore everybody to almost like tune in to our journey, because
Mm-hmm.
you're going to go through the exact same thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I talked with Ryan about, what we do as almost being like a hike. We're climbing up a mountain, and it's interesting for every business to say, hey, I can see the summit, right? But you have to walk it yourself. And, if you have a good guide, which is, I think folks like Ryan and me, to walk up it with you, and we provide you the best equipment there, you have the fastest way to get to the top, but it's still a journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, 100%. It's not something that just happens overnight. And for you guys that don't know me, my name is Ryan Steinelson. I'm the president of Accelerate Marketing, digital marketing agency. We help businesses produce an extra 50,000 plus of revenue additionally monthly through optimizing Google Business Profile, local service ads, and implementing AI. But yeah, this is what we've seen is very interesting in terms of what we're seeing. What you said is exactly right. Is we're setting up the artificial intelligence. I just got off the phone with an attorney firm in Alabama, a PI firm up there, and they're just getting started. Like this is it's they're going to look back on this day, you know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and go, man, that was like the beginning of the internet, or it was like the beginning of having a telephone. I mean, literally, it's that impactful. They don't even realize what they're embarking on and what the opportunity is. And what we found is that it's really important to set the proper expectations for our clients so that so in other words, we want to make sure that we pace ourselves, just like in a hike. You want to make sure, like a good Sherpa is going to be like, okay, you know, you got, you've got, first of all, have you prepared? Have you had a correct onboarding or correct debrief? Which for us is, okay, your AI agent's going to do three things. It's going to do three things. It's only going to do answering the phone initially. It's going to be answering the phone, sending notifications out via email and text, and then that notification is going to include information about the call or the message lead. And it does voice and messages on one phone number. And so, there's so much opportunity just in that statement alone, because I don't really know of any other agencies out there that are really even doing that or even have that technology, in which we have. And so, back to my Sherpa story. I mean, once we debrief our client that it's only going to do those three things, in other words, you're only going to have this size backpack on, and you're only going to have to walk a mile a day. Okay, can you do that? That's all we're going to do in the beginning. And then once we do that, then we get to the first break point, or what do they call those, camps. And then we get to the first camp, and the first camp is, okay, your AI voice and messaging is working for intake or customer service. Once we do that, then we look at our verticals that we work with, like plumbers. Okay, then we're like, okay, now what can we do? Now that we know that the AI is working 95% of the time, saying what we want 95% of the time, not perfectly, but it's at least responding to text messages so that we get that 30-second response rate, and then we expand from there. And we can do things like generate reviews. We can have the AI recall the entire conversation and all the other conversations that led up to that review, and then send a requested or a suggested review to that person via text with the link, and then follow up with a phone call and send the request, ask permission first, and then send the suggested review and the link, and then follow up with the person. So that's a review module, so to speak, that we would just add on to that initial intake and customer service module, if you will. And then, and these are the questions that we're getting our clients to ask is, okay, well, now I know that we can do the backup. It can do the backup, answering the phones, or it can back up our human intake, and it can back up our customer service. Now they're like, what about primary? What if we just have it like first line, And if that's the case, then they got to ask themselves other questions, like more specific questions on how that call should really be going. And, outside of the review module, where the AI is getting reviews based on the previous conversations the AI has had, because it's got full recollection of entirely, the entire journey of that client or that prospect or that lead or that, whatever you call it in your business. Then we go to, okay, well, what about emergency service? If you've got an emergency service for a plumber, you want to make sure that lead is handled in an emergency fashion, like with urgency. And so we would tack on that emergency module to make sure that the emergency calls are being handled in the best way possible and routed the best way they possibly can, so that you can handle those emergency leads. Yeah.
And I think, for a lot of these businesses that have onboarded an I think it's opening up their eyes to what the possibilities are.
Mm-hmm.
That I think it's an exercise to get them even to think about that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so were used to hiring people, but
Mm-hmm.
we just gave you an employee that's infinitely scalable. What are some of the things that you dreamed of doing but never were able to do because you had a capacity issue?
Yeah.
All right. So every business that has had some lead reach out, right? If you had infinite employees, you would start thinking about, hey, could I check in with these people?
Yeah.
Right? They were interested in my service at some point. And I don't think people thought of that as a possibility, right? Because they were always just limited by what their ability to scale themselves and to
Yep.
scale labor would be, right?
Yep.
And everybody has an email list. Well, what if you had an agent attached to your emails that was able to shoot out messages just checking in there, right? Just what are the possibilities then? And I think people have, you know, on from the marketing angle, a lot of businesses are interested in kind of outbound, right?
Mm-hmm.
To
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, look, when we advertised, effectively it's a shout out from a megaphone, right? And and we either, there were a lot of leads that weren't qualified, and we get a lot of riffraff. There's a lot of junk in there. And how do we sift through that, right? Well, now you have an AI, and I think one interesting application of this was a client that was onboarded, and then there's a spam call that came in, right?
Yeah.
And the AI handled it differently from how we scripted it.
Yep.
And she was shocked by that and said, I think her initial reaction was like, hey, it's not going to script, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a good thing or a bad thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's, if you're getting a bunch of, lead forms, a bunch of people that are wasting your time, right? Do you want it to go through the old script, or do you want it to be an employee that's smart about this, that goes, oh, this is spam, click, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it didn't behave. And you know, I think for every person who onboards this, there's that just risk tolerance. There's that, like,
Yeah.
how reactive are you, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's reflective of the business. And I think, yeah, like, it's interesting to go through that journey with this particular person. As we go up this mountain, are they, you know, overly sensitive to
Yeah.
every temperature change, to every whatever, right? Like, I think everybody has their own way of kind of running their business.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's just interesting, just having that being, I've deployed, with a full range of size companies. And as much as I would like to say that everything just moved smoothly from
Mm-hmm.
day one, that was never the case, right?
Yeah.
We always had emergency emails. It's like, hey, it didn't say, it said this thing wrong. And so I think what our solution is, and where we're even training our businesses to start thinking about it, is, again, it's a journey. You
Mm-hmm.
would you, you know, training this employee up
Mm-hmm.
requires both sides, right?
Yeah.
And the earlier on you are engaged with that process of training your, AI employee, the better off you are, because you need to get into a mindset of, okay, well, this is a person I'm employing. I train it the same way, but what do I have a training process? Right? Like, do I give it a script beforehand and think about all the different ways that it should behave, or should I have a robust feedback session? Hey, every week or after every call, I'm gonna go in and be like, hey, you said these things wrong. Or do I, you know, or is it a batch, and every week you're like, I'm gonna look at 100 of these, and then I'm gonna run analytics on it to see whether 20 of them complain about these things, and
Mm-hmm.
then what do I do about that, right? Because we can't be holding their hand up the entire mountain. It's like we're Sherpas teaching you the ways, right?
Yeah.
At some point, you're going to go up your respective peak that you want to,
Yeah.
and it will just kind of give you those tools, which is what our platforms are really doing, is giving you these tools where you can control the prompt, where you
Yeah.
can lay in bed, look at the 5 conversations I had today, and said, oh, it said that. Let me go back into the platform and make a special edge case for it. If
Yeah.
it's an emergency service, or they say they have a leak, you know, go down this route.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. I mean, it's like, yeah, there's you gotta really at some point, yeah, you might go and just go the route yourself. But this is like, we're getting you to as far as we can with the tools that we have, which are as far as I know, are like the best tools out there. I mean, they're some of the best tools. I mean, because I don't really know anybody that has the ability to put one, like use one phone number for both voice and messaging. And then, I mean, think about it. Like there's other agents that are, I mean, you talk about having this one person completely scalable. This person can be in multiple different places at the same time. That's the beauty of it. It's not just limited to voice and customer service. Like, well, it's not just limited to intake and customer service. Which, by the way, I would potentially make two different agents for that. One for customer service, one for intake. One is more sales intake. The other one is just customer service, which is two different mentalities and two different prompts. And then you've got the review gathering AI. There's the emergency training that needs to be given to the AI in order for it to handle those calls the way it needs to during emergency calls. And then you've got the recurring services AI that would, on a regular basis, after somebody purchases or after they first, like became in the AI's awareness, you would then do some sort of a recurring AI that would help the person to make sure that the regular maintenance in their plumbing is done, that it's cleaned out properly. I wish I would have had that recently for my AC that just stopped like about a month ago. And those are great. It really, there's a lot of people that there's a lot of uptake on those type of continual engagements that would normally have to be done by humans. And to just coordinate that and to make sure that it's done, there's going to be people that are missed. There's going to be people that are skipped. For one reason or another. With AI, that doesn't happen. Everybody gets called at the exact time that you identified as needing to be called. Then you've got seasonal services. So, just before the winter, you would de-winterize your plumbing for people, and then you would have a mass message that goes out for that. And then you've got an invoicing AI that helps with invoicing and recurring invoices and sending out proposals or following up on proposals. I mean, these are all like, there's so many different modules. And if you find the right Sherpa, if you find the right partner to go up the mountain, they're going to have all of those stop points that I just mentioned. And that's another thing that you'll want to look for when you're trying to decide who to hire. If you're going to decide who to hire, I would hire an agency, an AI, conversational AI agency that has a great reputation, great reviews, that specifically knows how to do the, like everything on one phone number, like where you can put, like voice and text on one number, and then one that has experience in your vertical, and then enough experience to understand all of these different checkpoints along the way or opportunities for your business, and then integrate all of them together, because that's the key. Because if you don't integrate them together,
rhetorical?
huh? What?
Was that
What?
rhetorical? Because
What do you mean?
the agency doesn't exist.
Yeah, I know. So this is what I'm saying is, like, I'm really trying to help people understand what to look for, because that is what we're learning in these conversations and in the hours and hours of conversations that we're having with our clients when tweaking the AI, is that it's this is what's necessary. And an agency that has scalable technologies, a scalable technology that you're not locked into. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, S, but if somebody, and you want to make sure that you're going into this with eyes wide open, because who you start with is going to be really important, because they're going to have all of that training and all of that history that AI is going to be given, and it's really non-transferable. Like,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, Ryan was basically setting up to be like, "Good luck finding them. You're not going
Yeah,
to find them. We're
yeah.
the only two guys who could do that for you."
For the most part.
because 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 the alternative is this, and I we have this conversation with every company, right?
Mhm.
That would have done some research and then given us a name of another technology firm,
Mhm.
and we're like, okay, they're a startup, and we know they're a startup because by and large this technology wasn't available 2 years ago, right? And so whatever they're doing, they're learning. They're learning how to get up the hill as they walk up the hill themselves, right? They
Yeah.
just happen to look back and say, "Hey, look, I've come this far. Let me try to sell this and bring somebody up to where I am," right?
Yeah.
And I go, "Well, you and I mean, I was doing messaging on a telephone number at a chatbot widget. You had the customers that were doing the voice agents, and we're like, Ryan, together we throw each other on each other's shoulders and catapult each other that length of the journey that we walked.
Yeah.
And we're really at the point when we talk to clients where we go, they're like, who else is around that's doing this? And I'm like, nobody. Like
Yeah.
we're alone on the mountain,
Yep.
right? Like it's the two of us and our clients that we're trying to bring up.
Yeah.
And yeah, we want to, and we're getting into interesting conversations with clients. And we started with individual business owners, verticals, but a lot of these clients have agencies, right? That have multiple businesses in this vertical, and we're getting into really interesting conversations now with agencies in a vertical that we go, wow, if your like penetration is deep enough across the country that if somebody was looking for this type of service, we could be putting out a product that's like here's an AI that will answer all questions about this service and start helping you. And if you have any follow-up questions and you want a human, you want to hire a human, you
Yeah.
be our referral service. The AI will be like, okay, where do you live, right? And okay, I have exactly that service for you via the agency's penetration, and now we can become a nationwide referral network that goes, okay, like we can own this vertical. And I think, one part that I started, you know, and because I put on my own AI products in different verticals, and I've found that if you just provided the value, so let's just say somebody was looking for a law firm, right?
Mhm.
If you have the ability to have that initial interaction as a conversation, okay, what do you need a lawyer for? What happened to you, right? You could prompt the AI to start telling them whether this is a common case or not, start answering it. And then anybody who's played with ChatGPT knows that at some point it goes, well, this is all state specific. You might want to consult a professional
Mhm.
on this. And it always says that, right?
Mhm.
It's a modest change to the prompt to be like, well, do you have a professional that you would like to contact? If
Yeah.
not, we can connect you with the right human.
Yeah.
And I think where AI initially will become extremely impactful is not necessarily replacing people. It may just be connecting people to the appropriate services,
Yeah.
right? So that possibility is all there. And these discussions with the agencies, we're starting to open up the eyes on what the possibilities are. We talked about SEO with one of them, and we go, if you had a general bot like that that sits on a website that has the conversation the moment that somebody has a question, answers the question, and then can refer out,
Mhm.
like that's how you go from maybe you're big in one particular area or state, right? This is how you grow out your reach and be able to provide service to anybody that finds your brand.
Mm. Yep. Yeah. Like, yeah. This is how you expand your reach because you can. The AI can do so many different things. I mean, it can be like you said. It can maybe just not replace jobs, but it's going to be the tool to connect people, and be the referral partner, that or the referral liaison, if you will. Yeah, I agree 100%. And I it's interesting. The like you said, the conversations that we're having with our clients now, and where they want to go. And I you do have a lot of experience. I mean, I've got videos that I can show now. I can play short videos that I've created without showing my screen. But I'm kind of curious. So this is the AI. Let me just play this.
Appliance service, how may I help you?
Hello, I'm calling because my oven is not working.
Okay, let me get some more details about your oven issue. What exactly is happening with your oven?
So that's an example of the AI and how it works, which is really cool. Could you hear me when that was playing?
I couldn't hear you, but I heard that.
Yeah. So that's the AI. That's how it works, and that's just a short little snippet of it, like how quick and and fast it is. And then I even this is how I found S.
Okay, so I'm going to show you how I found S when I was doing a search. So this is what's so powerful. If you type in messages AI, there you go, text May. And if you go to his website, this is the reason why he is showing up so high in the search, because this is how I found his business. And I chatted with the sales agent. I asked, hello. And I had a whole conversation. Can I book an appointment?
Right?
That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. And I'll tell people that, look, that's my morning cup of coffee. I get a digest of that to be like, hey, your employee had conversations with all these people. Like, that's so valuable for me, right? In one place where I can just scroll through 50 pages of transcripts, and I'm like, all these people are asking about these things. Should I be building out this as a product, as a service? And I think business owners just never had this luxury, right? Because you hire a team of people, and sure, you have meetings and stuff, right? And you get little snippets of, almost summarized data for you with their own different biases, right? But a 50-page transcript is something I look forward to, right? And I'm going to read every single message, and it's going to take me 10 minutes to go through. Imagine that, like having that visibility on how people interact with like your web page, when they come across your business, what questions they have. Is it pricing? Is the pricing too high? Do they stop the conversation when you give them a price? All this insight you now have a bird's eye view of.
100%. And Abdullah Zaman asked a question here. Hey, what's your view from YouTube on Assistant API version 2? Do you have a comment on that?
I mean, the Assistant API, we looked at it initially. I think that was when it was able to make function calling, right? And by the way, these tools are great. Like, we use OpenAI, and we can't wait for the next model because we have to build so many modules. So there's probably 16 things that we build just to make this AI work, right? If somebody else can give me the next gen version of 8 of those, fantastic. I'm going to swap out this module, put in this module, right?
Yeah.
And so we love these tools. They're the electricity that powers everything that we do. And so I think ever since they allowed API calls, it was a little tougher to get it to trigger. Like, you need to prompt it correctly. Like, if this happens, make this function call to either check the database or to shoot out an email. And I think there's a lot of experience that needs to be had experimenting with these tools and modules. But I mean, I don't have a firm opinion of it, but I didn't even know that they were on version 2. But that's what I look forward to, right? Like, if I have version 1, the swap from version 1 to version 2 is just like that, right? Like one line of code. And so I think, one of the things I want to, when OpenAI came out with their custom GPTs, right? We thought, for my developer, he was like, oh, our competitive edge is gone, or it's dashed, right? And I'm like, you got to stop looking at it that way, right? Like at this first inning of generative AI, you have platforms that are building tools that, in a way, cage people in. Okay,
Yeah.
so you can create a custom agent with OpenAI's tool, right? Okay, how do you put that into your channels, right? And then it's okay, we have to hire a developer, or I use their interface, and it's good for learning how to do this and testing out responses and prompting, but what's the step after that? And I always say, like, these tools that are available from the big companies are great for prototyping, not great for production. And those are two very different things, right? One is a toy for proof of concept and to test it out and to build out that test environment so you don't have to build it out. Fantastic for that. But when you deploy it within your technology stack, you use your own CRM, you have these telephone numbers. How do you then connect those up? And I always say the AI piece is 10% of the work and the plumbing is 90% of it. So I would, with any of these tools, I would say if it's a reason to try it and you don't have to build yourself, do that. Always take the off-the-shelf product that gets you closest to almost like the promised land of what you would like to build, and use those in the meantime. Or on your, I don't get audio.
Yeah, until you get right directly to the source, I think is what you're saying.
It's always like, look, if you were going to build out a prototype flying car, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to build out the engine, the tires, manufacture all of that? Like, you don't. And by the way, large companies don't either. Like, why in the world would you do that when you have Goodyear that has stress tested their tires, right? And so I really implore everybody who's building to stop thinking about how do I get a competitive edge. That's not what the market needs. The market needs the electricians to hook up the electricity once it's invented. Do not go try building your own generator. Like, do not try it because it's pointless, because it's you against $1 billion behemoth. And why are you trying to attack that problem? Attack it because it's an interesting exercise for yourself to understand how this works. And maybe it would reveal some aspect of, this newfound, fuel or way of doing things, but like use it as that, as in here's an exercise. But whatever tools there are out there, and by the way, when we talk to clients, right, like you and I love it when they mention the new tech that I haven't heard of, right? Because if you are using this tech for it, fantastic. I want to learn about it so I can reach out to them to see how we can make this a more complete product for people.
Yep.
And,
I agree. And he asked, and I'm going to jump on here in a second. I'm just grabbing the link for the school community because we do have a school community. It's funny that you mentioned that. So you're saying basically to use like the Blands and the Vappies of the world in order to just to go and hook people up and maybe not go. Maybe you don't have to go directly to like Grok or OpenAI or in order to get in order to set up conversational AI, you could just use the simple versions in order to set people up with what they're trying to get.
Yeah, I say go with the service that's going to get you to the final, as far down the final product as you can. And there's foundation modelers like OpenAI is one, right? But they're building. It's almost like you have a whole range of people that play in a chain, right? And all these individual links are trying to create their own chain, right? And like so OpenAI being the foundation model provider, almost an electricity provider, may start making adapters so that businesses can plug into their electricity easier and easier, right? Mm-hmm. But go with that, but just get quickly down to being able to deploy it. And whether it be OpenAI, whether it be a combination of OpenAI and a VAPI, or there's vertically integrated tools that are like chat-based. Like we use them for our prototyping when we did enterprise stuff, right? It was going, hey, look, it has a little chat widget, it has a prompt builder, customizations. It has these integrations, and we use that to prototype, because why in the world would we create our own then, right?
No, I agree. And by the way, really quick, Abdullah, before you go, so there is a local labs. We've got a school community, and if you want to join, we actually have a call on Wednesdays. We call it our workshop Wednesday, but we're going to probably do that more often. But you can join and be on the call with us and ask us questions. We'll set you up with the chat agent live on the call within minutes using our platform, so you can see exactly how it works. And that's one of the things that I was actually going to record. But we're actually dealing with this issue right now that S is talking about, where we're making the migration from Bland to OpenAI, and hence we're going through the iterations so that we've got to change some things in our onboarding process, and we'll have that done hopefully by Wednesday, so that it's literally like a 3-step process. You go to a sign up page, you put your name, email, phone number in, put a password in. Then you go to the next page, which is, what area code do you want to buy the number in, and then you buy it, and then you just edit the prompt, and then you add your notifications in, and you start using it, and you get 20 free text messages and 6 phone calls, and you can edit that prompt. And we're going to go over how to edit the prompt, and you can, we are looking for white label partners, so if you want to white label what we're doing, we can provide the electricity for you. Join our call, and we're now looking for AI electricians.
Yeah, right. Like, again, once you don't really care, from my perspective, and I'll let you know. It's interesting talking to like startup founders that get really cagey about their tech stack, right? And for me, I always go like, if they're this cagey about it, do they really have a defensible kind of plumbing system, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a joke in my mind, where if they go, oh, we have a proprietary whatever, I'm just going to tell you, we use OpenAI's models, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, we connected to Con Ed. I don't care that Claude is better or whatever. Like, I just haven't had a reason to change it, because like I care more about building out the machines that the electricity is using, rather than which electricity source I get. And when they get cagey about that, I'm like, ooh, we're not gonna be like, if we're not gonna be upfront on the first date, like this relationship won't go well. And I typically will just kind of end the call there, because I know it's almost like when you recognize the amateurs in this that want to like say, oh yeah, we have something proprietary, nobody else can give. Like they don't have a community mindset, right?
Yeah.
They're already going like, we're the only ones, we have the best. But like, I suppose there's an element of, we did that a bit too, but like we get on these to educate other people and say, hey, look, I want to answer your questions. Like, if it's a question that we can't answer, we'll investigate it, right? But like we're drops in the ocean relative to these large companies, and if we can move a lot faster together, and with participation and from people who go, hey, I have a vertical or I have this application, and I want to test it out and white label your technology. Where I keep saying, why reinvent the wheel, right? And be months behind when we can hand you a wheel, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, I agree. I think that and I know, Abdullah, you have one more question, so definitely go ahead and ask it. What's interesting is that like there's not many, like, what we're doing is I don't see, I've watched a lot of YouTube videos out there. I don't see anybody else that's actually creating content that is showing outside of programming and using Bland or VAPI, like that's literally showing how you can set somebody up with a voice and a text phone number in less than 3 minutes. I don't know that, like, so that technology is obviously like eluded a lot of people. There's channels that are talking about like what the next best technology is, whether it's Grok or Gemini or OpenAI or or Llama, It's like they're coming, and it's going to be, they're growing exponentially too. I don't know if you saw, but like Grok's computer system is like, it's insane. It's in Mississippi. Elon is going to make it 100 times. The computer is the biggest computer in the world that's going to handle their AI, and it's going to be launched in December, and it's Grok 3. So it's going to be nuts. So my question to you, S, is if somebody switches over, let's say from OpenAI, let's say we've got OpenAI that we're using right now, and we've got clients that are using OpenAI, and we switch them over to Grok, then obviously those conversations, it's like we're going to have to train that AI all over again, right?
No, it's
No?
one line of code change. You're connected to Con Edge. Now we connected to PG&E.
But will that agent, the new agent, have history of that, all the other conversations?
Yeah, because the infrastructure that we provide is the conversations infrastructure, the databases, the vector database, like all in the traditional database, conversation history, hosting, all of that. I want to make sure Abdullah, if he had a last question, that he should ask it or no.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is a great. I mean, this is a great question, because I mean, this is very, very important for people to understand.
Yep. So here's the answer. I see a bunch of posts that's like, hey, this is how you create a voice AI agent, right? And then they walk you through like 8 steps, and they start using terms that you don't understand and you can't follow, right?
Yeah.
They're like, it's really easy. You can build this in 10 minutes. And then you're like, you can build it in 10 minutes if you had a PhD, or like if you were a software engineer.
Yeah.
But like for the average person, you can't do it. And so
No.
that's why we spent so much time. I think both our platform, Messages Improved and Accelerate Marketing, to be like, we finally made this digestible for the average business owner. It's like, again, building a website. It's like, oh, configuring DNS and IPv4 and IP33 and WebSockets and all this stuff. And you're just like, the hell are you talking about? Like, I just want a web page, right? And if there's something that I can go on, sign up, create a base web page, and now it's live on the internet. That's all I wanted, right?
Yeah.
And our software does that. And it's the easiest ones to use that I've come across. And we built it because I've dealt with all the other ones that I'm like, I know what I'm doing, and I'm still getting confused. Like,
no, I agree. I mean, I think that like being able, what I have not seen yet is somewhere that you can go where you can literally in 3 clicks have a voice and messaging AI on one phone number. I've yet to see that. And so, and that's what we have. And our infrastructure, and this is what I'm saying, like our infrastructure that we're using, let's say it's OpenAI, okay? So considering the AI boom 2 months ago, I began researching about how I could benefit from it. Yeah. Considering the AI boom 2 months ago, I began researching about it.
Can you pop that up on the screen?
Yeah. Here. Okay. There we go. Yeah. So you started researching about two months ago about how you could benefit. And then you said, I came to the conclusion that AI automations is where I should dive in, because I love the way how these AI automation platforms work, like voice flow, bot press. Yeah. So in other words, yeah, I agree. The automations, like I talked about, those are the different dimensions of a business, like the review component, the emergency AI, agent. It's all in the automations, 100%. And then you said, do you think it's going to grow more, or it's just a hype? Oh no, it's going to grow. This is just it. Look, this is similar to the conversation that I had when the internet first came out and websites. I had people tell me, I think this web thing is going to be a flash in the pan. It's not going to be around. We're going to stick with our email, or we're going to stick with our mailers that we do in the mail. Do you think it's a good career to go in? Oh my gosh, yes. Look, here's the thing. What is going to happen is these agents, you're going to have all those 5 or 6 agents that I talked about, and all those different business parts of the business that are going to take over all of those parts of the business. Okay. One agent is gonna take all those parts eventually. And so you're going to have a swarm of different agents basically that are going to take over one at a time different parts of a business and do them in a more reproducible manner where you don't have to train again and again. There's so much less overhead that's going to be expended. Right now, if I wanted to hire somebody, I'd have to go through the process of having the previous person train the next person. I'm paying both people for training. I'm paying two people to go through a training process for a month. Whereas with AI, you don't have to do that anymore. There's no more training. Once
Yeah.
it's trained, and this gets to the question that I have is this is why it's important, in my opinion, to use to really select who you're going to go with an AI agency, because you want to make sure that whatever platform they're using, that there's redundancy and that there's less chance for breakage. And that's one of the reasons why I like dealing directly as close to the power source as possible, because when you use systems like Bland or VAPI or whatever, that's another interface in between you and that client with the AI agent. Whereas if you're dealing directly with, for example, these large language models, these foundation models, you don't have that breakage point. You're not going to have that breaking point with Bland or VAPI or Air or any of these 11 Labs. And so my question though is and it sounds like this is why it's important, because I don't know that if you use Bland, if you use that intermediary, would you still be able to just switch over with somebody with another provider?
Well, see, that's where I think Bland did a good job because they have a lot of API documentation. There's some things we'll use from them, some things that we'll build our own.
Yeah.
So you want to go with a platform that's like fairly open, that doesn't cage you in, right? To say, hey, look, the way to build a resilient system is to have fallback, right? You could have this one vertical infrastructure relying on a third party, but if they're open about it, right, you can make your system resilient so that if Bland goes down, use VAPI. If VAPI goes down, use OpenAI, right? And that's the proper way to build. But I think that's more important for kind of like the enterprise ones. For the small businesses, they just want to make sure it works, right? So rather than go down too deep on the technical side, I'm just like, go with a platform that allows you to do all the things that you really wanted to, right?
Right. And what's interesting though is that your information, that learning that AI has gotten, is transferable from, within the business, right? Let's say that like that example of going from one foundation model to another, you could easily make that transition. It's got all the history and everything.
Yeah. If you're like us that kind of build all those little modules, right? So we and just to actually touch on your question on Abdullah, like my short answer on it is, of course, like there's literally going to be a bifurcation in society. People who did things the old way and people who have machines that do it. Klarna was probably one of the first public companies that came out and said, we replaced 500 of our customer service agents with one AI, right? Do you want to be on part of the industry that is that? The engineer that tweaks Wally so that it could do 500 people's work, or do you want to do it the old way? And when you talk about hype, you're like, this is not crypto, where it's like people will say it's a solution looking for for a problem. And crypto is fantastic for its own things. Like I was in it, right? But like if the existing system works well, like why are you trying to have a less efficient system? But with AI, this is not this problem. The problem was always there. You had a non-scalable human business that has all the issues of a human business, but now you put an AI there. Like it's the ultimate problem solver, right? And we can all imagine a world where 5 years from now, it's the companies that had AI and the people who still do things the old way. It's the Expedias of the world versus your travel agency. And we're sitting there in every vertical when you get to make that choice, right? Like traditional or the web version or the AI version. And I mean, I think time and time again, when you look back at history and technology, right, it was always the poo-pooers that like were slower to adopt, and then they just ended paying a ton later on.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I know we got to go. It's top of the hour. Thank you, S. And if you're watching this, after the fact, you can definitely just leave a message, down below in the comments. We will definitely follow up on all the questions that we get. You can go to Text May to find S, and then you can go to accelerateyourmarketing.com to find us, or Messages Improved actually for S, Messages Improved. And then we have these daily. We do have a workshop on Wednesday where we're gonna bring everybody in, like, and just literally like set them up with agents. Everybody gets an agent. All right.
All right, looking forward to it.
All right.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Ryan.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.